my system. Apparently, this always happens. So thank you for the intro. I'm very excited to be here with you, and I hope I fulfill your expectations for today. The main reason that we are here today is we talked to the Bridge for Billions team, and starting a brainstorm on how to address the problem that we all have is to boosting sales. We found out that how a brand is delivering the message through the customer journey has a huge impact on how are we delivering sales nowadays. So without any further talking, I'm just gonna go into it. Okay. So just feel free to ask any questions that you have. Drop them in the chat box, and we will address them once I'm finished. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of concepts that we're gonna go through. So be sharp, be awake, take a Coke or 3 coffees, however you like it, and let's go into this. So yeah, I wanted to share a story with you, and you most likely have heard of it. You know, there's a hipster or a millennial that has this eureka moment, and then working from his parents' garage or house, in comes the venture capitalist, and then out comes a unicorn, and voila, the world is saved. And this is an inspiring story. We really like it. We all like hearing about a hero every now and then, but it's a misleading story. This is the way the book Blitzscaling, which I actually recommend because it's really good, calls this kind of stories. So as you surely have found out, this is a misleading story, and it has another side of the story. We all know about the effort that you're making, that we are making, and the motivation and the passion behind this. But for that, we have Robin Sharma and Tony Robbins. So today we're going to focus much more on what's driving our results and our revenue that we really like, want, and need. So this is a hell of a ride. I've been there. I've built 5 startups, sold them, lost them, left them. And I'm referring to all the stuff that has to be taken care of before the cart even starts rolling over the roller coaster. And in the same way we don't forget to buckle up, we shouldn't forget about our brand. And I strongly state this because we have for years mistaken the brand for just a logo and what kind of colors are going into our websites, into our business cards, into our presentations, and we are really leaving behind the main message that the brand has to convey. And the activities that give value to a brand, for example, your marketing, is really, really important, and how it impacts in your business results. And I'm referring to the revenue. And especially how it improves your customer acquisition. This is how a brand generates sustained value. This is really, really important. It's not just creating a beautiful logo. It's not just creating a beautiful brand identity or a well-crafted message. It's how you put everything together and match it with your activities to generate revenue. So the main message behind this is that your brand is not what you say it is. It's what people say about it. And your job as business owners is to ensure that your marketing is affecting the perception that people have about your brand. And this is totally doable. I'm going to teach you how in just a minute. So hello, I'm Gabriel. I'm crazy for Mexican cupcakes. I actually run a lot. I'm an industrial engineer who's a sucker for innovation and marketing. I love figuring things out, and I think that everything has mathematics and geometry in it. But despite what Afia said about me in the presentation and in the invite, well, I work generally with startups from inception to the 10th anniversary who need to implement coherent strategies through innovation and marketing, and sometimes the occasional moving mammoth like PepsiCo or BBVA or General Electric. By the end of this webinar, I hope you'll be able to craft your revenue and business model. I hope you could easily translate the brand values into a value proposition. I hope you can build your customer journey and storytelling and integrate all this into a marketing plan and a budgeting plan. So for this, first we will need a framework, and I really like frameworks because it gives us an eagle's eye view of what's going on. So we're starting with the who. Well, the framework starts with the who, the what, the why, and then it goes to the when, the where, and how. I'm going to go into this right next. Okay. So for the what, I'm starting with the what, why, because this will give you and this gives us much more insight in how our business is generating value. And there are four key components: the revenue, the costs, the product itself, and the customer itself. And this is how we generate value as a business. Okay, the very big difference between a business model and a revenue model is the business refers to how you put everything together. The revenue model is how you make money. Okay, okay, I'm gonna give you examples from past experiences. For example, I have worked for SAE. This is the biggest creative media organization for higher education, and this is how I would get to explain these three examples, and for you to understand these key components. So, for example, for SAE Institute, the revenue is being generated by activity, which is the sales of higher education seats. For Tequila Alacran, is the sales is selling bottles of tequila, and for Obtainker is health insurtech memberships. Okay. Then for the cost, this is something we are quite familiar with. So we got, for example, for SAE, our rent, the wages for teachers, our marketing efforts. For Tequila Alacran, I got all bottles, the bottle caps, the production. And for Obtainker, I got, for example, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence engines, cloud storage, commissions for insurance agents. And regarding our products, for example, at SAE, I have majors and bachelor degrees for audio, animation, games programming and games design, cinema. For Alacran, I got three main products, which is silver tequila, aged tequila, mezcal. And for Obtainker, I got memberships, data, and scores or net promoter scores for practitioners. Regarding the customer, for example, for SAE, I got high school students who love creative media. For Alacran, I got millennials who are party animals. And for Obtainker, I got baby boomers who have huge medical debt. For now, we will assume that you already have your cost of goods sold figured out and your cost of, your CapEx and OpEx figured out. And we will also assume that you either have a minimum viable product or you are getting there. So for the objectives of this webinar, we're going to focus on revenue and on our customer. So revenue, we can find that at the top of our statements. And we should hope that this goes well, but when it doesn't, if something goes wrong here, everything else suffers. So our first problem to solve is how to generate sales. And it is affected by two things. First, the message our brand conveys and our revenue model choice. First, understanding our business model. For example, you are all familiar with the lingo B2C or B2B or B2B2C. And in case of, for example, of Obtainker, we have B2B, to B, to C, and again to B. And what I'm trying to do over here is to let you know and share with you how each of these three brands got into the market. So, for example, SAE Institute is a business-to-consumer model, which consumers get in touch through website and events at high schools. Then we get all their data and get them into customer engagement with sales reps, and then we get the student. We start working with the conversion ratios, all our sales narratives, and convert that prospect into a student. In case of Tequila Alacran, we have B2B2C. So we produce the tequila, we got distributors and food and beverage companies, and then go into the consumers. For Obtainker, I'm going to skip it right now because it's much more complicated. and I have a slide ready for you specifically for Obtainker. So that's a business model. So, and how you get from a B to another B or a B to a C, that's your revenue model. That's how you make the money. And it's affected, as I said, by two things. The message that our brand conveys, this is our value proposition. And the elements of the value proposition are four main key elements. It includes what you are selling, your benefit, your target customer, and what makes you unique. Here's a template, for example, for Tequila Alacran. Tequila Alacran is for millennial party animals, that's the customer, who live to see the sunrise, that's the need or opportunity. Our triple distilled silver tequila, that's our product, will serve solo or mixed right from a sexy bottle, that's the benefit. Unlike other silver tequila, that's our closest competitor, we keep the flavor without the hurt. That's our main differentiator. So if you put it all together, you could read, for millennial party animals who live to see the sunrise, our triple distilled silver tequila will serve solo or mixed right out from the 60 bottle. Unlike other silver tequila, we keep the flavor without the hurt. So this tequila was crafted not to give you a hangover. So this is perfect for party animals, for example. Okay. So much of this information, as you see, comes from the customers or users. And we will get to that into a few minutes. So I just take a minute here to present the Tequila Alacran. This is a beautiful bottle that was crafted by this venture. And it started selling 4,000 cases of 9 liters each. And now it's selling more than 120,000 all over the world in 18 cities. So I think we managed a knocker with this one. And the other thing that affects your revenue is the revenue model choice. This is a really important one. It's a catchy one. There's a lot of information. Sadly, I couldn't put every example that I could think of because there are a lot of them. And I hope to give you a general picture of what a revenue model is. And surely you will know some. So let's make some money. The main objective of designing a revenue model is to keep this path as smooth as possible. So on the far left, there's your company. On your far right, there are your customers. You will provide them with a service, which in exchange, they will pay you some money. So that's the basic idea. There are 4 basic categories. You have one that's free for the user, 2, the one that our users are paying for. Then you have a third one, which is called the third parties. And then the last one, the matchmakers. Just a brief note here. If you opt for number 1, the free for the user, you would surely need someone to pay for the bills. So that in comes the third party. And I'm going to get into some examples right now. So for example, for Tequila Alacran, we were launching. We didn't have any money. And so what we opted to do was to engage in a really tough PR campaign. So the tequila was free for everybody, at least all 4,000 bottles that we produced as the first batch. Then we sponsored to pay for parties for companies who did not have the money to pay for parties. So at that same moment, Vice magazine, if you don't know it, this is a huge magazine for millennials, for urban culture. Vice magazine in Mexico was being launched, and they didn't have any money to have their Christmas party. And there was another brand called Condesa DF. This is a really beautiful kitsch hotel in the center of the city, who was opening at that time, so they needed the traffic. So what Alacran did was serve as a meeting point between these two. So Condesa DF, the hotel, lended us the venue for the Christmas party for Vice, and we provided for all the alcohol. In return, we got free stuff from Condesa DF to bring our business partners into the city and stayed for them at the rooms, which are really, really nice. I really recommend it if you're ever in Mexico City. And Vice gave us 6 months worth of advertising without paying. This should be the equivalent to it's around $350,000. So for the first one, for the free for the user, for example, this one is the free for the user. So nobody paid for anything. Everything was for free. And everybody got what they wanted. Either it was traffic, either it was a venue for doing their Christmas party, or getting some advertisement. Moving into the paid formula or paid model, there should be a reason always to for a customer to move from free to paid. And sometimes, for example, in the case of SAE Institute, is vanity, because SAE is the most awarded and recognized university worldwide for creative media higher education. It's #1 for audio production. It's #2 for animation. It's the #1 university for games programming and games design. The other one is loss aversion. For example, if you are like hesitant to contract something like a software, for example, then you could go into a revenue model that lets users try the software first, instead of buying the full suite and the full solution and moving all their databases and CRM otherwise, for example. And then if they like it, they like the use, and they're receiving all the value that it should deliver, then they get to pay a fee, which could be a monthly fee or a one-time fee. Then the other one, for example, is anonymity. This is something that, for example, LinkedIn does. If you want to do some searches and you don't want people to know that you are looking at their profile, so you get to pay some money, and you get to go stealth mode, for example. And then there are surprises. We've all played, for example, Candy Crush, the Candy Crush saga, and every now and then, when we run out of lives, some special crate come out, and it gave you either some more lives or some more tokens, and really and some surprises that might keep you spending money within the platform. So moving into the third-party model, this is where it gets tricky with Optanker. This is a lot of information. This is a really complex model, because it's taking data from every stakeholder in the system. So supposedly, in general, insurance companies pay for expenses, right? So let's think that should be true, especially in the United States. So the system pays and the customer pays. This is what happens. You will end up with a lot of invoices, because in the health system, there could be services or practitioners that are not registered to that specific health policy or health insurance. So that will be generating some invoices. What Optanker does is collects all this data from the ecosystem, drives traffic to practitioners, structures all the taxonomy codes, and brings all the costs associated with these taxonomy codes into an artificial intelligence engine. So members pay a fee and return inconsistencies within their billings. Then Optanker bills hospitals, bills practitioners, and insurance companies that are wrongly billing patients for their services. Optanker processes all the legal issues and processes reimbursements in insurance companies, patients. It lowers the cost of public health. So it's a really complex model, but what Optanker is doing is they're taking a small fee from the patients. They are trading with data that's going around the whole ecosystem among the insurance companies, the practitioners, the hospitals, public insurance, and it's sharing this data, and it takes its money from processing legal issues and reimbursements, and taking commissions from processing reimbursements. So in a way, it's saving money to patients, to the health public system, to insurance companies, and it's putting everything together in an orderly manner. This is why data is the main currency for Optanker's business model or revenue model. Then for the matchmaker, I'm surely you know Alibaba. we got Amazon, and we got Tinder too. So for example, with Alibaba, if you want to go, for example, sell rubber bands to the Chinese and you don't know how to sell to the Chinese, then Alibaba has all these companies that will match your offer with the demand within China, and then it will connect as a B2B or a B2C. The same with Amazon. And Tinder, well, I think that's a no-brainer. I think that's like the mother of all matchmakers. So some examples that you can look further into. For example, for the free for the user, you have the freemium example. This is, for example, when you get a software and you get to use for free. You got partnerships. So, for example, you could get to use the software for, I don't know, Microsoft, but all the data that you're generating while using the software belongs to Microsoft. There's also another model which is called pay what you want. So, and there's another one, for example, that's paid with a tweet for carbon emissions and so on and so forth. For the paid category, then you have the loss aversion, just to help your customer become their fears for implementing some technology, for example. You have, for example, scarcity. This is a really good one. When you say customers that you are releasing, for example, a new collection of denim jackets, which only have 200 in the whole world, and half of the price is being delivered to an NGO in Kenya, for example, this is something that you could do, and you could use this to charge a surplus on your goods. For the third party, for example, you have your advertising. This is a model that we all know too well. You had the affiliate referral. So, for example, this is a model that a lot of blogs use. For example, BuzzFeed or Failarmy, Vice magazine also use this. So what they are doing is that they are referring a lot of traffic to partners' websites, and for that traffic, they would charge a fee. And also the data selling, and the king of the data selling are Google and Facebook. Of course, you are using for free a software or a platform. You're generating all this data, and if I am an advertiser, I'm paying for this data to make my ads or my messages reach you and convert you into a paying customer. And then there's the matchmaker, which I would like to emphasize here. For example, the crowdfunding would be a matchmaker, because there you have someone that is looking for funds, which they don't have, and you have people that are looking to fund projects that they could find, for example, in Kickstarter. Okay. So moving into the framework, we addressed now the what. We're moving into the who, and just a quick reminder that when you market to everyone, you sell to no one. This is like the main takeaway of this second part of the framework. You can't possibly talk to everybody. It's impossible, and it's impossible to think that talking to everybody's going to purchase what you have, your services or your products. This is why it's really important to identify your segment or niche, develop an empathy map, know them beyond your demographics. It's not just addressing middle-aged women from Ohio or from Mexico City, for example. You have to define user personas, and I'm going to take as an example of Tenker's empathy map. So let's dive into it. This is an empathy map, and you can take this and use it as a template. So an empathy map, in the upper part, you have what a customer feels, thinks, does, or says. So imagine this is a parent whose wife is diagnosed with diabetes. He's 55 years old, and he is drowning in debt. So he feels helpless. He feels angry. He feels absolutely sad and powerless. He starts crying. He starts screaming. He starts getting the calculator out, and he starts getting loans and paying with debt. Okay, he doesn't understand all the numbers, he doesn't understand what all the codes are that are into the invoices that he's receiving, and he only sees a lot of numbers. Okay, what he's thinking now is that how will he pay for that debt? He needs to get healthy, because if he falls ill, his whole family is going to suffer. And how do I know? And this is something really common. How do they know that the doctor is telling the truth? Okay, this is why Obtainker is coming in and checking all the taxonomy codes, and checking the diagnosis, and checking the practitioners, the hospitals, and checking the whole value chain to identify whether there's a fraud, whether there's a misdiagnosis, and if people are being charged with services and at prices that are just overwhelming. So his pains are to find funds to pay for the bills, keep a credit score that's good enough to ask for a loan. He wants to keep his house because he also has a mortgage, and pay for wise diabetes treatment. So he has two main goals: to provide his family with financial security, and reach business unit performance goals to receive his promotion and increase his monthly wage. And what roadblocks might he had to achieve his goals? So he has a lot of financial worries. He has to go every Wednesday with his wife for dialysis, and he has no family members near to take care for the kids. So this is like the worst case scenario we can talk about. Okay. So next, we go into when to communicate. We got all this information from the buyer persona that will help us build and craft our messages. Okay, so when to communicate refers to the customer journey, and all these arrows and lines over here are intended because the customer journey no longer has a one direction. It no longer goes into one direction. So there's a customer that might land into the desire phase, into the interest phase, or into the action phase, or maybe in the post-action phase. And I'm going to explain it to you. The awareness phase is when nobody knows you. So remember when I said to you that your brand is what they say about you? So if they don't know you, they have nothing to say about you. So our main goal here is to let them know that we exist and that we do something. Then we help them move into the interest phase. The interest phase is that, okay, now I know you build chairs, for example. So why would your chairs be of interest to me? Okay, they are small, they're very well crafted. It serves for very small apartments in New York, for example. So, okay, now you got my attention. So now into the desire phase. Okay, maybe we have social channels over here that might help us with micro influencers or with influencers and promote our brand, the quality of our products, or how easy it is to ensemble them. And then from the desire phase, we move into the action phase. The action phase is when our customers already have their credit cards in their hands and they're ready to make the purchase. But we need to convince them to take the decision to purchase from us, other from the competition. And then there's the post-action. For the post-action, what we're referring is that our customer is already your user. They have already bought, but now they need information on how to use you. And they need reasons to keep doing business with you. So how do you get them into the loop and maintain them within your commercial cycles? So when also refers to your channels, and there's 4 main channels. There's the broadcast, and this is basically much like a billboard or TV. Nobody knows you, so you need to target the most large, the most large audience that you can get within your niche, and just put your message out there. Then you get your direct channels, your text, for example, or your WhatsApps. Then you have your search channels where people already know what they want. And then you have your social channels when you need to be related to an affinity group. Okay? And the when also refers to media. You have 3 main media here. You have your paid media, where you have to pay to be placed, and you actually don't control it. So if you have to pay in order to be seen, you don't control it. Then there's your earned media, which is media in where you're being referred. So for example, word of mouth here is somebody recommending you, or some influencer is directing traffic to your website. That's earned media. And then there's owned media, where you are in complete control, like in your website, your social channels, for example. And just remember this, effective marketing is all about how you use your channels along the customer journey to achieve a certain goal, okay? So take a breath. I know there's a lot of information over here. We will have, at the end, some space for Q&A. So take a deep breath and let's move on. So we now move into the why, okay? It's time to bring the objectives. There is an objective for each phase in the customer journey. In the end, I need to sell more. But there's a specific objective that needs to be reached at each specific point in the customer journey. So in general, what we would do is relate our business model, is relate to our business model and revenue component. Because if I set objectives that have nothing to do with my commercial objectives, or with my business objectives, or with my marketing objectives, I'm not going to get the results. So be smart. And this is something that you might know also. Think about this. What do you want your marketing to achieve? Okay. So when you set objectives, know this to be smart. Be specific. Do you want to generate leads? Do you want to sell more clothes? Do you want to sell more scarves, for example? Do you want to drive more donations, for example? They have to be measurable, okay? How many shirts do you want to sell? They have to be attainable, how possible it is. So, for example, if by this time last year I sold 1,000 shirts, would it be attainable to think that I could sell 1 million at this point? So this is a question that you need to answer. It has to be relevant. So if I'm trying to sell more shirts, why would my objective be have more likes in my Facebook channel, for example? Okay, this is really important. And I mentioned this example just to clarify that a like is never a sell, okay? And your objectives have to be time-bound. So when do you want to achieve, or when do you want to reach your goals, okay? And then in comes the KPIs. These are the key performance indicators that tell you whether you're achieving your goals or not. For example, if my objective is to have new leads, the metrics are the story behind this KPI. So what would be the conversion ratio that I would need to reach a certain number of new leads, okay? So the example that I'm putting here for you is that of SAE, and the objective would be framed like this. Have 450 new creative media students for the autumn intake with a digital marketing campaign starting August 1st, 2019, and the budget of 100,000. So we are being specific because we know the number that we need for new media students. We also know that this objective has to be reached by August 2020. We also know the budget, and we also know that this is attainable, for which I need to do the work and set in the budget, okay? So we'll bring it now all together. Hopefully, this is aimed to start putting all the pieces together. So now we get to the content. Yay! So it's time to build our messages, okay? And how we will use them to drive revenue. It will contain your value proposition, and it will help to attract, persuade, nurture, and promote. These are the four key ingredients of my content marketing. So it has to be remarkable. It has to be remarkable content, and it has to be about solutions, not about your product. This is really, really important to create engaging content, okay? Informing people about a product is just useless data. There's a huge difference between informing and communicating. Informing is like just throwing a lot of information. Communicating is actually reaching and engaging with the customer and talking to them about a solution, because they have all these worries that we saw, like in the example with Uptanker. Okay, telling about a solution is communication, and each one of the steps within the customer journey has a way of being communicated. Okay, so each phase has its own. So awareness, we will focus on the problem, and we will talk about the who we are, and why would the customers be interested in having a relationship with us. The interest and desire phases talk about the solution, okay, and they focus on what we do, okay. Then at the end, in the action phase, we will talk about our product or service and explain how we do it, okay? So putting it all together, for example, of Tanker, for example, we will address these three, because these are the most common and the ones that are most important to create conversion ratios, okay? So just let me change screen. Here we go. So what you're going to see now is the full digital marketing strategy for Uptanker, okay? This is how we tailored the messages for each step and how we managed to put all the messages into one coherent strategy, okay? So this is the customer journey. So we got four main areas of communication. We have the big idea, that is, we are a global care provider. The concept for communicating this is that we are a universal global value-based care provider. And for referring for the first phase, the awareness phase, what we will communicate, the key message here is who we are. And the message is, we are a global care provider that offers people solutions for preventive healthcare and excessive billing. Okay, this is our value proposition. Then we move into the interest and the desire phase. So now our key messages are referring to what we do. Okay, so for the action, for the interest phase, for example, for agents, so we enroll, train, and guide insurance agents and agencies in our membership sales program with an increased commission rate for each policy sold. This is really important. Why? Because agents were the main connector here. They were the matchmakers between Uptanker and the final consumer, the user, or the patient. And then we moved into the desire phase. And the key messages here is that that we globally match care needs to all available care options with access to solutions for health advocacy, for securing and consolidating all medical records, for billing validation and negotiations, for financing to qualified members, and legal consultation. And then we get to talk about how we do it. This is how members get all the value from us, and how we delivered that benefit to them, okay? And this is how we structured it to each phase. So for example, for the awareness phase, the client status is that they don't know anything about us. Our relationship is that our client or investor does not have Sursum or Uptanker, they don't know what we offer. And the objective at this stage is to establish the brand on what we do. Okay, for the interest phase, the client status is that they have needs. They need to know more about us, our offer, and our benefits. Then the client is somewhat interested about what we do. And then the objective of this stage is to just inform the client about our product or service. Then we move into the desire phase. And our client status here is that they might be considering on giving us their $35 a month, for example. But they're also seeing some other options in the market. The client relation with our brand is that they already know us, but they don't know, they're still waiting for some confirmation or information whether to do business with us or not. So the objective of this phase is create the need with clear criteria that meets the purchase intent. Okay, and for example, for this phase, we will use a lot of social channels. Then we move into the action phase. The client status here is that the client is ready to sign and has all the information that he or she needs just to get their memberships. The client now fully owns the purchase process. He or she is comfortable with his decision, and we are now ready to move into business with him and start taking all their invoices, their notes, or their, I don't know, maybe their credit scores, and start doing some legal counseling. Okay. So the plot thickens. This is important because as in this slide, I'm stating what is the objective of each phase. Okay, and the objective is to help people move from each stage to the next one. So for example, if someone already knows that they need legal attention, they would go into Google and search for legal attention for medical billing. So they most likely will land into the desire phase or the interest phase. So when they land into in the interest phase, the information and messages that they would see would help them move into the desire phase. And it would look something like this. So at the awareness phase, we are communicating who we are, okay? So we are a global care provider that offers people solutions for excessive billing and health prevention. And these are the topics that we are gonna talk about. We can talk about them in video blogs, in blogs, maybe in some research, maybe in some essays, maybe some social advertising, display advertising in Google, for example. And for each phase, we'll have specific topics that will help the customer or the user move into the next phase. There's a lot of information. Actually, it's going to be available to you. I'm going to share with you this slide deck. You also would have this video for you to review because there's a lot. And of course, you will have my contact for whatever you need. So just ask. And my main priority here is to let you know and to clarify how a general message like your value proposition is being converted into very specific content marketing that relates to a business objective and generates revenue. So what would be the channels that we use for each phase? So for example, for the awareness phase, I would use broadcast channels. The outlet or the media outlet would be, for example, display. This would be the banners that we all know too very well. Real-time bidding. We could use Facebook advertising, YouTube videos. We could use own and paid media. And we could have the support, for example, of a spokesperson, print media, videos, public relations, trade shows. So these are all the tools, so to say, that we have to deliver this message. The main thing here is that the main thing here for you to remember is that you have specific channels and type of media in each phase to deliver the message. And this is most likely to work. This is like general because there's no point on having, for example, search in the awareness phase if nobody knows what they want. So for example, if I don't know that I want cupcakes, why would I be searching for cupcakes? But if I know that I have a cupcake, that I want a cupcake in the morning with my coffee, and I want to know where's the nearest coffee shop where I could have a cupcake, then I will go into Google and just search for the best cupcake within my neighborhood. That would be the desire phase because I already know what I know, okay? So in the interest and desire phases, we would focus on delivering messages that have to do with what we do. For the interest phase, we would use social channels and one-to-one channels. So for example, if someone lands on a landing page of mine, I could have a live chat or a Zendesk chat that would help me engage one-on-one directly with my consumer. For the desire phase, I would have social and search. The outlets could be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. I could have Twitter. Some tools here, for example, I could have a landing page, a blog, live chat. I could have, for example, in the desire phase, it could be good for you to look for testimonials, because this is actually your way of recommending yourself without recommending yourself, okay? There's nothing better than word of mouth. This is people talking good about you, okay? This is why it's good to incorporate testimonials into your social channels, okay? And how do we do it? You would have your website, you have specific keywords for search, you would have, for example, live chat or MailChimp or WhatsApp, and you could have as support, frequently asked questions. You need to have your contracts ready, because when someone is ready to sign up with you, you need them to file a contract, sign a contract, or comply or accept the terms and conditions of your product or service, for example. Okay. The post-action phase has to do with all channels and media that you actually own. And this is customer care, this is customer satisfaction, and this is all the contact that strengthen your relationship with people that are already your customers. Because if they leave your company, you're going to need to spend 3 times more to getting them the back. And which is much more awful is that if they leave because they're not happy, they're going to start talking garbage about you. And it's going to make all this effort in the first 4 stages just go directly to the garbage bin. Okay, so all this in the post-action phase are your customer satisfaction channels and internal communication channels, which could also serve you. For example, if you're going to launch a new product, it could serve you to start communicating and make aware of this new product or service to a segment that already are buying from you. Okay, and then you will need to create a list of all materials or collateral that you need to produce. So for example, for the awareness phase, you have banners, social media content, flyers, folders, press kit, business cards, introduction letters, corporate identity, video spots. For the interest or desire phase, let's focus on the desire phase, you would need an image bank that relates to your brand identity and your brand values, and those values that are consistent and resonating with your customer, for example. Your agreements, for example, you could have quizzes, you would have landing pages where you would get to give, I don't know, reports or ebooks to your prospects in exchange of for their data. In the action phase, you would have an email written to give the welcome for whoever is purchasing and the welcoming for your new customers. Maybe if you have financial aids, frequently asked questions, this would actually save you a lot of work, because then you will start automating all the information that it's of daily usage from your customers. So, okay, and then, for example, for your sales strategy, this is important, because it would start showing the volume that you're trying to reach. This is an example. So, for example, for Tanker, we have a total population of 225 million. Okay, the total population insured is 320. The total insurance agents is roughly 300,000. You have 23 states that account for 80% of the insured population, and so on and so forth. And then you will get to see that you would need, just to reach the tipping point, 8,013 agents to promote your insurance. They each would need to sell 827 policies for you to reach 6.1 million memberships, okay? So this will become like your marketing objective, okay? And this is all like numbers. I'm just gonna skip through this, and I'm gonna return to the marketing plan and budgeting plan, okay? So back at the awareness stage, where I need 2 or 3 more minutes with you. Why would I focus on the awareness, interest, and desire phases? Okay, these are the ones that generate the conversion ratios. Okay, when I want to land new customers, the awareness phase is not the one that needs the most budget, because it's actually the one that has the lowest conversion ratio. And you need to set budgets for each of your phases, because as we said, it's not a linear process. So whoever lands, for example, in the awareness phase, it has roughly like a 0.02% conversion ratio. So it's not exactly converting a lot. So I would spend, for example, $6,000 on Facebook, on AdWords, roughly 2,000, for display 8,000, and maybe for video 4,000. So this would be 21,000 if I should have a budget of 100,000. Then I would get the cost per click would actually be given by the system, by Facebook Advertising Manager, or the AdWords panel. I would be reaching sort of more or less, for example, 2,908 site visits at a conversion rate of 0.02% would give me a sale of 1. So for getting a sale of 1, because I have to remember that this is a place that people don't know me all that well. For getting this 1 sale, I would have to reach 21,000 people, okay? But having achieved this, I can ensure that some of them have already seen me and they remember me. So when I get to run all my campaigns, for example, for the intent, for the interest phase, I could assign a bigger budget because the conversion ratio is bigger. And now it's, instead of being 0.02, now it's for 0.08. So for this, I would be spending, for example, 25,000, reaching a number of visits of 5,000, and then converting 4 sales. And then I move into the desire phase. Then I have a planned spend of 53,000. This is the biggest because my conversion rate is actually bigger. And this is, for some industries, is actually standard, the 0.5%, which is a lot way bigger than the 0.02%, which we started at the awareness phase. I got a lower cost. I have a higher cost per click, but I have a bigger opportunity of making the sale. So for spending 53,000, I'm generating 10,000 visits at a 0.5 conversion ratio. I'm generating 50 sales. Okay, so what would this look like in a return over investment Excel sheet? So in the awareness phase, I spent 21,000. In the intent phase, I spent 25,000, and in the desire phase, I spent 53,000, making a total of 100,000. I generated a total visits of 18,000, and a total of 55 sales. I know I have a profit per sale of 3,000 times the number of sales that I did. I generated a total profit of 164,000 and a positive return over investment of 64,000. And the good news for you is that you will have this Excel sheet to keep with you and help you with your calculations for setting the marketing budget. So I know we are actually running out of time. Sorry, I just needed to make for that 5 minutes that we started later. And actually, this is the end of the presentation. I would like to welcome any questions if you have them. So please fire away.
Well, this is amazing, Gabriel. This is Alex from Rich. Afio was just saying this is almost like a crash course on how to have a consistent business and marketing plan.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I know we have one question, so I would just in the chat at least for now. From Ali. I can read it, but Ali is here if he wants them to explain it. In regard to the first free way of doing business and the tequila hotel and magazine, the tequila company was the one who was offering the crowd or those who attended. Hence, did they already have a database with individuals, people to attend?
Love the question. We all needed the data, and we all needed, actually, Tequila Alacran needed the database or the customer base. Vice Magazine only had their employees, which get to invite 5 friends each. Condesa DF, which is a hotel, didn't have a very large customer base, specifically the millennial customer base. So Vice delivered this database. Tequila Alacran delivered the relationship between Vice Magazine and Condesa DF, and delivered the free tequila for everybody and the mixers and stuff. Actually, we didn't pay for the DJ because one of the guys that was working in Tequila Alacran was a DJ, so he provided for the music. And Condesa DF provided for the snacks and the waiters, and of course for the venue. So in a way, we all benefited from each other. So we used our network to get a lot of people into the hotel, and just made sure that we convert that into a database. Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you. But it's important here, just one thing, because it's very simple. Sometimes simple things, people just look over it. Whose idea was it to put this whole thing together?
Do you mean the webinar or the Tequila Alacran stuff?
No, the free thing that you said, because sometimes it's very simple. They say, okay, I have this, and what should we do? And somebody comes to them with an idea. Hey, I know someone in the hotel. Hey, I know someone in the Vice. They have this, that, and so it would be a win-win situation from every side. From there, everybody can profit. So a lot of people would say yes. And whose idea was this to go click? Hey, this, we could fit it together and it would fit. Or did they go in one way, or did they try many different hotels and then they try a different thing, try to get the Vice or any other magazine? That's what I'm saying. Good.
Yeah, I like your question. I guess I would answer it this way. Don't underestimate the power of public relations, because actually this idea came up when we got our first batch of bottles. We invited 2 guys to our office, opened the first bottle. We actually have a picture. We end up being really drunk, and being drunk, this is where the idea came from, because one of the guys that we invited was the owner of the hotel. And the other one was the guy that actually was investing on putting Vice Mexico at that point. Okay. And we had a lot of time in our hands, because at that point, Mexico stalled because there was the 2008 crisis. And we also got the N1H1 virus. So no one was moving out of their houses. And we got the tequila, we got the office, so we invited them, and we got the idea. So networking and public relations.
Okay, now that's what I want to. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other question?
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. I've been talking for a minute or so. Sorry. I'm saying that we have a question from Gloria, actually. She's also here, I can see her. Also regarding the example of the tequila company, it resulted in a good strategy to give free drinks, but would it be possible to do the same with the service?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what kind of service is it that you're offering, but for example, I can think of foot massage. So I would definitely go into a Tupperware party where you offer foot massage. The main thing here is that if you create an event for example, foot massages, you would get to document this, put people in your database, and try to use it as content to go into your social media channels or your blog or your landing page, or your website, and use it to generating some more traffic and have some of the attendants recommend your service after receiving a foot massage. Uh, this will become like your mini influencers and a huge word of mouth for you. So it would really, really serve. So if you are offering a service, invite people to live your experience and afterwards comment on it and use it as a testimonial of how good you are.
Amazing.
Don't know if there's anyone else who would like to share a question. You're unmuted, so you have to unmute yourself before you speak.
Yeah.
There's a comment here from Gabriel saying, thanks, this was enlightening.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is a lot of information.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a super crash course. I think that the main takeaways here is that there are some clear paths and patterns on how you could get to craft your value proposition for each phase within the customer journey and convert it into sales. Just remember to have a clear value proposition, to identify the key messages within each phase of your customer journey, and to craft your objectives in a way that they are related to your overall marketing objectives. So if you want to sell foot massages, you would need to have your objectives on driving traffic to your massage parlor, for example, and act accordingly, you know?
Okay, if nobody has a question, it's me again, Ali.
Good, Ali.
Wait a second, and then turn it on. Hello? Okay, here I am. This was a lot of information, as you said, correct? Can we see this in a video? I mean, because if I want to go through it, you know, bit by bit, because there were some which were actually pertaining to what I do. Principally, of course, it's very good to have all this information, but there were some that really stuck out for me. And I'd like to look at it again. I like to add that to our website, like who we are and so forth. I did whatever I logically would imagine intuitively, but adding intuition with actual practical work, which is, and then the one point that you said, communication is vital, and to get this across properly. So that's what I want to use as well. So long story short, the presentation that you have, do we have this on a video, or can we see it somewhere so I can go through it myself bit by bit? Is this possible or not? Or how is this going to be taken care of?
Yeah, there's going to be a video, and yeah, you have to talk to Afia and go to terms with her, because she's like the gatekeeper here.
Yes, we're recording it and we'll be sharing in the community this evening.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
We can recap everything.
All right, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
you will also have the slide deck, and I'll make sure to give you the my Excel sheet for you to start playing with some numbers.
Okay.
Just a clarification, if you see here in the ROI, you see that the return over investment for the awareness phase is negative. It doesn't matter if it's negative, as long as in the end I have a positive result. Okay, so final comment, it's really important for you to monitor your data, okay, to know how well you're converting, how well is being received your formats and your messages. Okay, this is really, really important. But for that, we could have another webinar because that's a whole new universe.
Okay. Don't promise, because we will be asking for it. Thank you so much, Gabriel. This was amazing.
Yeah.
there's so many things that come to my mind of words that were said, and all the key points that you shared. It was very, very generous. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Said we will be sharing in the community, so at any point you can review, you can check the presentation, check the resources that Gabriel is sharing. We cannot thank you enough. We hope you all enjoyed the session today. And if you have any questions, do share it in the event or through message. We'll be happy to also to forward it through Gabriel. And as always, if you have any suggestions, any comments, any feedback that you would like to share, we are very, very happy, and we invite you to do so, so that we can also use this in your favor and keep bringing you this content and this kind of interactions. I'm very, very happy with this session. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm very happy too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.